Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome everyone. So following on from my recent videos of the flowers, I've gone another sort of step further on this one. And I think the first thing you notice where I did the last one with these outer leaves curving out, I've emphasised that a little bit more. These outer leaves now are 6 petals, not the standard 4 like I've got all on the inside and what I've done for all the other flowers. So it's a little bit more working out, but I'll show in the video after this of how I've gone about that. You'll also notice as well on this particular one, all these sort of what would be the V-cuts are all different lengths as well, which again I think adds a little bit more of a natural feel to it. Things don't always go as planned, and the video started off with me doing this one and I show it in the video where I made a mistake, so I stopped the video at that point, went off and then got this one down to the point of where it got to this and then carried on the video. So it will all be explained in the video. Really pleased with that. It's, like I say, it just gives another element of a flower, all wood turned, and exactly the same process with all the others, just creating those different V shapes. And this one will go to the mother-in-law for Christmas, and I thought I'd better quickly just knock together a little vase on there. I have actually coloured the wood as well. And what I've done, I've used the chestnut spirit stains again, but they do a set of wood colours. I would highly recommend that you look at getting those. There is a really good range in there. This particular one is the mid oak, and I've got to say, really pleased the way that's come up, and it just makes the whole piece look all very natural. I'm in the process of doing yet another flower, and this is very similar to the last one I did on the video. And so it's multi-layered again, and it's taller, thinner, so those all work fine. Now for my final layer, I've got a piece of oak here, and I want the last layer to be a 6 petal, not the standard 4 petal. And if I can keep this as wide as possible, I also want it so that the petals come out a little bit. A bigger piece of oak would have been a lot nicer, could have done more of an effect on it, but at least I can still hopefully get the petals coming out. So how do I go about getting these 6 lines for where I've got to make all my cuts for the V shapes? Now if you've got a protractor, you can then go ahead once you find your centre point and then go around and put 60-degree lines all the way around. Again, accuracy is not key, so you could manually put those out, but the easiest way I've found on doing this, and I'll show it on the opposite end here where I've not done anything. First of all, you need to find your centre point. So just using the normal process, find the centre point. Straight away I can see that the centre point is going to be in the middle of that square, and I'll just use my live centre to put a small hole in there to roughly where the centre is. One of the most valuable tools I bought literally within the first year of wood turning was having a compass in the shed. So I'm just going to set the size of the compass so that it's just about going to go round, touch the edges. Doesn't matter if it's inside a little bit, but I want to be able to draw a circle all the way round. So that's there. So I'm just going to now draw a circle all the way round. Now without altering the size of the compass, if I now start on one of these flat edges with the point directly on the circle and then just draw a line and then go to each point, draw another line. This will basically split the circle into 6 and give us our 6 sides that I'm after. And you can't get more accurate than that. That would be the same as, let's say, finding the centre point, going down with the protractor and then drawing out the lines. But that method is a lot easier. And all I'll do then is I'll just put a line right the way across. So that's now got my 6 sections. Now for ease of marking out like I've done here for my V's, what I've done is I've just then turned this roughly around. I've still got one or two flat spots on here, so it's not fully round, but I just wanted enough on the end here so that I could then bring those lines down on the sides to mark out, because obviously you can imagine it's going to be pretty hard to bring the lines down here, here, and maybe here, and then mark out all your V's so much, because especially on here you're trying to mark out a V on a corner. So by doing it this way, it's a lot easier. Now from this point, if you've got a bandsaw, you can go and take that to the bandsaw. If your table tilts, you can then do your first cut, take your V out, switch the table to drop to 60 degrees, cut your next V out, and then alternate the V for the other way as well on the other 60 degrees. If you're doing these manually, then again, having these marked out this way, even on this circular piece of wood, if I'm going to cut these out now, I've got lines that I can cut to, so I can put this into a vise, cut out with a handsaw where I want the V's, and it just makes it a lot easier than doing it from the square end. I'm going to start off with this very top one because it's on the flat at 90 degrees to the table. So my next one, I need to tip the table. I'm not sure which way my table tips at the minute. It does tip this way up, so I'm going to do the next one so that it just drops up in line that way. So I've not specifically measured the angle on this, I've just gone by my lines on there. So I will now cut this V here. So that's that one and that one done. I now need to do this one. So I cannot tip my table over any further, and I just need that extra 10 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape a piece of wood on the side here, and I've just made sure it's on there as secure as possible. And I've got to say, cutting that with that wedge in there was so much harder to control than without it. But I've got, hopefully, as you can see there, my 6 shapes ready for the petals. Now this petal I'm going to treat exactly the same way as I would do any of these other petals. The first thing I want to do is drill the hole in the middle, hollow out the inside so that I know this is going to fit in, and that way I can then go and shape the outside. So just as like I normally do, 10mm drill bit to start with. I'm now going to hollow this out with the normal carbide tool so that will fit inside. Hopefully it doesn't need to be too much bigger, to be honest, which will allow me plenty of room to shape the outside of the petals. Right, so that will be the depth I want. So before I then shape out the insides of these, I need to make sure the outside is trued up properly so that I can know how far I can take them out. So I have made the error of turning these down too thin before taking out the inside here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start again with another piece of oak there, and I'll come back when I get to roughly this point again. I'm now back to roughly where I was. This piece of oak is a lot more flaky and brittle, which I've already had a split down there, which I've had a CA up. So this will break at any point. I've also been a bit more random with my V cuts on here, and I've made them a lot thinner because I just thought this one was going to be, the petals are just going to be too small. So that's why I've gone for much thinner V's in here. So I'm just going to mark off really roughly where the bottom of the flower is going to be. Right, so the next job, they're down to the size they need to be. I just need to be really careful now in that I sand these up gently and get all the shapes that I want. So I do have a fresh piece of 180 grit there, which I just used for sand on the inside. So I'll lock the spindle like I normally do and sand each of these down. And that's actually quite a nice shape on there, so I'll just carry on all the way round just to get all the petals defined like that. Now I've sanded all the edge of these petals and got the shapes I want. They're all nice and smooth, and I've just sanded on the outside here to 180 as well. I've also just drilled the formal hole right through the base, so I can now go off and finish sanding this up through the grits. Once I've done that, I can then create the pin which will run through all of these to assemble it into one piece, and then create a stem. Now the biggest problem with this isn't the number of slits in here, and I've got to say I really do like that I've gone a bit more random with these, that some are deeper, some are narrower, some are at different angles. It just makes the whole thing look more natural. So the number of slits in here doesn't cause the problem. It's purely and simply the length of these petals that when I find, like for example this one, they're all fairly thin, probably about 1.5 millimeters thick at the very bottom here. You can see that they are really thin there. There's a lot of movement in there on every single one, so you just have to be careful with the sanding.